I'll create a unique story following your instructions and using the suggested style. Here's the new narrative. The water rippled around me as I glided through Emma's pool, trying to cool my thoughts along with my skin. I could feel his eyes on me again, Michael's gaze following the curve of my back as I swam. When I turned, his stare lingered just long enough before he pretended to be focused on his laptop. This had been happening for days now, this silent electricity that neither of us acknowledged. I emerged from the water, droplets cascading down my body, and caught his quick exhale, the subtle shift in his posture. Emma was inside making drinks, oblivious to the tension building between her husband and her best friend. Before we get too far into this, if you enjoy stories about complicated relationships and forbidden desires, hit that like button and subscribe. Your support means everything, and it helps me keep sharing these real-life confessions. Now let's continue. 15 years of friendship with Emma, and I'd never once looked at Michael as anything more than my best friend's husband. But divorce has a way of reshaping your perspective, of making you notice things you'd conditioned yourself to ignore. After Daniel left me for his 25-year-old assistant, Emma had insisted I stay with them while I looked for a new place. "It'll be like college again," she'd said, except with better wine and an actual adult home. The adult home being Michael. Successful, attentive Michael, who'd always been polite but distant with me until recently. I wrapped a towel around myself, aware of how it clung to my damp skin. "Taking a break from work?" I asked, my voice deliberately casual as I settled into the lounge chair opposite him. He cleared his throat, eyes flicking up to meet mine before darting away. "Just finalizing some contracts, nothing exciting." "Unlike those mystery novels you hide on your Kindle," I teased, remembering Emma's revelation about his guilty pleasure reads. He laughed, the sound warming something inside me that had been cold since Daniel left. "Emma needs to learn about client confidentiality. 15 years of friendship trumps marriage confidentiality," I said, my smile fading slightly as I realized the irony of my words. What would Emma think of the way her husband's gaze had been lingering on me lately? Or worse, what would she think if she knew how my body responded? "You all right?" Michael asked, his voice softening. "You looked miles away for a second." I shook my head. "Just thinking about how long it's been since I felt, I don't know, desired, I guess." The admission slipped out before I could catch it, hanging in the air between us. His expression shifted, something darkening in his eyes. "Daniel was a fool," he said, his voice lower, heavier. The sliding door opened, and Emma appeared with a tray of margaritas, her smile bright in the Miami sun. "Who's ready to get a little day drunk?" she called. I pulled my towel tighter, feeling suddenly exposed in ways that had nothing to do with my swimsuit. Emma set the tray down and plopped beside me on the lounge chair, her hip bumping against mine with familiar ease. This was my best friend, the woman who'd held my hair back after too many tequila shots in college, who'd cried with me through my divorce proceedings, who trusted me enough to welcome me into her home. I couldn't betray that trust, no matter how my body hummed when Michael looked at me. That night, I couldn't sleep. My guest room shared a wall with their master bedroom, and I could hear the soft murmur of their voices, the occasional laugh. Were they talking about me? Was Michael confessing the way his eyes followed me? Was Emma reassuring him it was nothing? I slipped out of bed and into the kitchen, looking for water or wine or anything to distract me from my thoughts. The house was cool and quiet, moonlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows that made the Miami skyline look like a painting. "Can't sleep either?" I startled, turning to find Emma leaning against the doorframe, wearing an oversized t-shirt that likely belonged to Michael. Her expression was unreadable. "Too many thoughts," I admitted, not specifying which ones. She nodded, joining me at the kitchen island. "I've been watching you, Nick." My heart stammered. "Watching me?" "And Michael." Her fingers traced patterns on the marble countertop. "The way you look at each other when you think I'm not paying attention?" I felt sick, shame washing over me. "Emma, I would never—" "I know," she interrupted, her voice calm. "That's the thing about 15 years of friendship. I know you'd never act on it." She looked up, her eyes meeting mine. "But what if I told you it was okay?" I blinked, certain I'd misheard her. "What?" A small smile played at her lips. "Michael's had a thing for you since we first got together. It's always been a fantasy for him. You, me, him." She shrugged as if discussing dinner plans rather than upending my entire understanding of our relationship. He'd never pursue it, and I know you wouldn't either. But I've been thinking, maybe we could make his fantasy a reality. Are you serious? My voice was barely a whisper. You're not upset? Emma's laugh was low, intimate. We've shared everything else over the years. Clothes, secrets, heartbreaks. Why not this? I stared at her, searching for signs of reluctance or resentment, but found only open curiosity and something else. Anticipation. Think about it, she said, squeezing my hand before heading back to bed, leaving me with a head full of possibilities I'd never allowed myself to consider. The next evening, Emma suggested opening a bottle of Pinot Noir she'd been saving for a special occasion. What are we celebrating? Michael asked as he uncorked the bottle. Emma's eyes met mine across the kitchen island. New beginnings, she said simply. 3 glasses of wine later, we'd migrated to the living room, the lights dimmed, music playing softly. I felt warm, relaxed, the boundaries of my usual restraint softened by alcohol and the strange new permission Emma had granted. Remember that trip? To Cancun? Emma asked, her head resting on Michael's shoulder, her feet tucked under my thigh on the couch. When the cabana boy kept hitting on Nicole, Michael chuckled. He was persistent, I'll give him that. Nicole kept shooting him down. Emma continued, her fingers idly tracing patterns on Michael's chest. But later that night, she told me she might have given him a chance if he'd been less obvious, more subtle. Her eyes flicked to mine, a silent question. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Sometimes the most interesting connections are the ones that build slowly, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The ones with history. Michael's gaze shifted between Emma and me, awareness dawning in his eyes. What exactly are we talking about here? Emma sat up, setting her wine glass aside. I think Nicole has been lonely since the divorce. Her hand moved to his thigh, resting there with casual intimacy. And I think you've been curious about her for years. The air in the room thickened. Michael's expression was cautious, confused. Emma, it's okay, she assured him, before turning to me. And it's okay with you too, isn't it, Nick? Words failed me, so I simply nodded, heart hammering against my ribs. Emma smiled, then leaned in and kissed her husband deeply, purposefully. I should have looked away, given them privacy, but I couldn't tear my eyes from them. The familiar ease of their connection, the way Michael's hand automatically rose to cradle Emma's cheek. When they parted, Emma turned to me, her eyes dark with intention. Come here, she whispered. I moved closer, drawn by 15 years of trust and this new, unexpected pull. Emma reached for me, her fingers threading through my hair as she guided my face toward hers. The first brush of her lips against mine was soft, questioning. We'd shared so much over the years, clothes, secrets, tears, but never this. I felt Michael watching us, his breathing audible in the quiet room. Emma deepened the kiss, her confidence guiding me through my hesitation. It was strange how familiar and foreign she felt simultaneously, the scent of her perfume that I'd smelled 1,000 times before, the softness of her lips that was entirely new. When we separated, I glanced at Michael. His eyes were wide, his knuckles white where he gripped the couch cushion. Emma noticed, too, a smile curving her lips as she reached for his hand. Bedroom, she murmured. We followed her through the house, the hallway stretching like a threshold between our old relationship and whatever we were about to become. Emma's bedroom was bathed in soft light from bedside lamps, the king-size bed suddenly the focal point of my attention. Emma turned to her husband, fingers working at the buttons of his shirt with practiced ease. I stood awkwardly at the edge of the bed, unsure of my place in their familiar routine. Then Michael looked at me over Emma's shoulder, his gaze tracing the curve of my neck, the outline of my body in the simple sundress I wore. Help me, Emma said, and for a moment I thought she meant with Michael's clothes, but then she turned, presenting me with the zipper of her dress. My fingers trembled slightly as I pulled it down, revealing the smooth expanse of her back, the elegant curve of her spine. I'd seen Emma in various states of undress over the years, changing in dorm rooms, trying on clothes in mall fitting rooms, but never like this, never with intent. Her dress slipped to the floor, and she stepped out of it, turning to face me. The intimacy of the moment struck me. My best friend standing before me in her silky undergarments, her husband watching us both with undisguised desire. Emma reached for the strap of my sundress, sliding it off one shoulder. Is this okay? she whispered. I nodded, finding my voice. Yes. The fabric rustled as it fell around my ankles. Emma's hands were warm as they traced my shoulders, down my arms, a touch both friendly and more. You're beautiful, she said, and I heard the echo of 1,000 compliments she'd given me over the years, now laden with new meaning. Michael moved behind Emma, his hands settling on her waist, lips finding the curve of her neck. She leaned back into him, a soft sigh escaping her lips, but her eyes remained on me. In that moment, I understood. This wasn't just about fulfilling Michael's fantasy. It was about Emma and me, about expanding the boundaries of a friendship that had already weathered so much. Emma reached for me, drawing me closer until I was pressed against her, Michael's hands grazing my sides as they wrapped around his wife. The three of us stood like that, a tangle of limbs and shortened breaths, until Emma guided us to the bed. What followed was a slow exploration, an education in each other's responses. Emma knew exactly how to touch her husband, guiding my hands alongside hers, showing me the pressure he liked, the rhythm that made his breath catch. And Michael, despite years of allegedly fantasizing about me, was tentative at first, his touches questioning until I arched into them, silently demanding more. There were awkward moments too, a collision of elbows, a misinterpreted signal, but they dissolved into laughter, the kind that can only exist in spaces of complete trust. Emma and I moved together with the synchronicity of old friends, anticipating each other's movements, building on shared cues developed over 15 years of friendship. At one point, Emma guided me to straddle Michael, her hands steadying my hips as I settled against him. The warmth between us built gradually, like the slow stretch towards something inevitable. Emma's lips traced patterns along my shoulder blades, her breath warm against my skin as Michael and I established a measured rhythm. I had expected to feel jealous or for Emma to show signs of possessiveness, but instead, there was only a fluid give and take, a shared pleasure in each other's responses. Michael's fingers tangled with mine, then with Emma's, a physical manifestation of the connection weaving between the three of us. The intensity built steadily, heightened by the novelty and the familiarity coexisting in each touch. When release finally came, it washed over me in waves, leaving me trembling between them. Emma held me through it, her body pressed along my back, her lips against my temple, while Michael watched us both with awe. Afterward, we lay tangled together, skin cooling in the air-conditioned room. Emma's head rested on my shoulder, her leg draped across mine, while Michael's arms stretched beneath both our necks. The silence was comfortable, contemplative. That was... Michael started, then trailed off, seemingly unable to find adequate words. Unexpected, I supplied, though that hardly captured the magnitude of what had transpired. Emma laughed softly, her breath tickling my collarbone. Was it? 15 years and we've shared everything else. Maybe this was inevitable. I considered, her words turning them over in my mind. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps this connection, messy and complicated as it might be, was simply the natural evolution of a friendship that had already defied conventional boundaries. What happens now? I asked, the question hanging in the air between us. Emma lifted, her head looking first at me, then at her husband. Whatever we want, she said simply. The three of us figure it out together. Michael's arm tightened around us both. Together, he echoed, and the word held promise rather than pressure. As I drifted toward sleep, nested between my best friend and her husband, I realized that the boundaries of our relationship had shifted irrevocably. What some might see as complicated, we had transformed into something rich with possibility. Sometimes the people closest to you can become even closer, if only you're brave enough to redraw the lines that define you. Morning came with golden light streaming through the blinds, illuminating our tangled forms. Emma was already awake, watching, me with those familiar eyes that now held new depths of understanding. Regrets? She whispered. I considered the question carefully, searching for any hint of remorse or unease within myself. Instead, I found only a sense of rightness, of pieces, settling into place I hadn't known were misaligned. None, I answered truthfully. She smiled, reaching across to trace my cheek. Good, because I think this could be the beginning of something amazing for all of us. Michael stirred beside us, his arm automatically tightening around my waist. In that moment, I realized that true connection doesn't always follow traditional paths. Sometimes it meanders, taking unexpected turns that lead to places more beautiful than you could have imagined. Have you ever crossed a boundary with someone close to you, only to discover something wonderful on the other side? What unspoken desires might be hiding in your closest friendships? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if stories like this resonate with you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This journey is just beginning, and I'd love for you to be part of it. Until next time, remember that sometimes the deepest connections come from being brave enough to redraw the lines.